I spent 10 years watching my family vacation without me, so I booked a $14,000 villa to finally enjoy. But when they arrived demanding support, what followed left them speechless. Every summer since I was 23, my parents and my younger sister Laya have flown off to some family getaway without me. No matter how much I asked, hinted, or offered to help plan, the answer was always a variation of, "It's just not going to work this year. We've already booked everything. You're busy with work anyway." Truth is, I wasn't too busy. They just didn't want to include me. The first time it happened, they claimed it was because there weren't enough rooms in the rental house. The second time, Laya needed bonding time with mom and dad after a breakup. After that, they stopped bothering with excuses. I'd see the group photos on Instagram, smiling in Santorini, drinking cocktails in Mykonos, exploring Maui, and every time it stung. But here's the kicker. In those same 10 years, I've also been the one covering unexpected bills. A shortfall on the property taxes, I covered it. Dad's dental implants? I chipped in. Laya's temporary move back home that somehow lasted 2 years? I paid her phone bill the whole time because she needed every penny for rent. Family helps family, right? That's what I told myself. But somewhere along the way, helping turned into funding. Last winter, after another round of, "Oh, we're going without you this year," something shifted in me. I thought, fine. If I'm not part of your family vacations, I'll have my own. So I booked it. A $14,000 private villa in Santorini, ocean view, infinity pool, the works. Just me, my laptop, and 2 weeks of doing whatever I wanted without a single guilt trip. I didn't tell them. I didn't post about it. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I just wanted peace, or so I thought. 3 days into my blissful solitude, I came back from a morning swim to find a familiar voice behind me. Surprise! I turned, dripping salt water, to see all three of them, Mom, Dad, and Leia, dragging their suitcases across the patio. Mom beamed like she just pulled off the surprise of the century. "We thought we'd join you. And since you already have the villa, well, you can cover the rest." I stared at her for a solid 3 seconds, processing the audacity. Then I smiled, said, understood, and that's when the real vacation began for me. I didn't become the bank overnight. It happened by inches, wrapped in just this once. At 23, I paid the penalty to change Dad's flight when he missed his connection. At 24, I covered Laya's rent for 1 month after she quit her job to find her passion. At 25, I put a new water heater on my card because the house would flood otherwise. They said they'd pay me back in spring. Spring became a shrug. The vacation started the same year. I saw a photo of them in Santorini, Mom in a sun hat, Laya with a blue door behind her, Dad holding up a glass. I wrote, "Looks amazing," and got a thumbs up emoji. No invite. When I asked the next year, Mom said, "We already booked a small place. Next time." Dad added, "You're busy anyway." Laya sent a heart and "I love you" like I was a distant cousin. Meanwhile, they asked for help between trips. I was good with money. Translation, I had savings and boundaries they didn't respect. I built a simple system to stop the chaos, a shared travel wallet for family emergencies, deposits in, expenses out, tracked. I set it up after Dad's dental bill exploded. I invited all three, explained the rules on a call, transparent, equal, no surprises. They loved it when it funded their surprises. In year 3 of the You're Not Invited tradition, Leia messaged, wallet short by $600. "Can you top it off?" "I'll Venmo Friday." Friday became Monday. Monday became work is weird. I covered it to keep the balance stable. She never paid. I started labeling each debit with a name and reason. The spreadsheet made me feel less crazy. It showed exactly what I already knew. The inflow was mostly me. The outflow was mostly them. I tried saying no. Mom cried. "We're not asking for luxuries. It's just transfers and fees." Dad sighed heavily. "I hate this money talk. We're family." Leia sent a voice note. "You're making it transactional." I stared at the ledger where my name was the transaction. Then came Christmas. They canceled the big dinner due to budget, but I found photos later. Everyone at the table except me. Leia texted, "It was last minute. Don't be weird." I told myself I'd stop helping. 2 weeks later, Dad called about property taxes. My hand still moved to the card. I kept waiting for one of them to notice the pattern. They noticed the card number. Last year, Mom floated a big redemption trip idea. What if we all do Greece next summer? Family healing. I said yes, thinking maybe the tide was turning. I laid ground rules. Everyone buys their own flights. We split lodging evenly, non-negotiable. They agreed quickly, too quickly. 3 months later, I saw a wallet charge, premium transfer, Athens to Santorini, 3 packs, not mine. Then check baggage add-on, 3 packs. Then priority seat selection, all on the emergency wallet labeled family travel. When I pushed back, Mom replied, "We thought lodging meant you're covering the ground stuff since you planned it." I hadn't planned anything, not yet. Dad sent. We'll sort after. Laya, stop nickel and diming. It's ugly. That was the week I booked the villa for myself. I didn't owe them an explanation. I wanted silence, my own schedule, a pool with no committee meeting beside it. I bought my flight with my points, arranged my transfer, and turned off wallet notifications for a month so I could breathe. They showed up uninvited, dragging suitcases, acting like it was a grand reunion I'd been waiting for. Mom smiled as if this was all perfectly normal. Leia did a slow circle with her phone, filming, saying, "We've needed this, like I had ordered therapy. For everybody, and the receipt would go to me." Here's what understood meant. I paused their wallet cards, the ones they'd been using for upgrades, transfers, and emergencies that weren't mine. Then I messaged the concierge, "I am the lead guest. No authorizations without my approval. Add 2 single-night guest passes for relatives. After that, day access only. Please confirm. Next, airport transfers." I found their booking in the email thread Mom had forwarded to show me how much trouble she'd gone to. I called the company and moved their return pickup to the earliest ferry day, not the late night seaplane they'd chosen on my wallet. "Family emergency, change plans," I said. Truth is, the emergency was my boundary. At lunch, Mom dropped her napkin and asked for a seafood feast on the house. Dad chuckled and said the word treat 3 times. I paid for my salad and let them order what they wanted. Every tap on the table was loud. The afternoon, I checked the spreadsheet and backfilled the last year. Luggage fees, cabin upgrades, lounge passes, an airport hotel due to fatigue, 3 clothing purchases tagged urgent weather, 2 spa days labeled Laya's anxiety. My total out, $9,870. Their total in, $1,300. Notes, will repay Friday. Sort after family. I printed it to PDF and saved it in a folder called Boundaries. That evening, the waiter leaned in at dinner and whispered, "They canceled everything." Dad went still. I took a sip of wine and watched the realization crawl across his face. There was no bottomless card tonight. There was me and there were prices. Mom blinked fast. "What does he mean?" Leia looked at her phone. My card just declined. Dad cleared his throat. "Did the bank block it?" I said. "The emergency wallet is paused until we settle the last 12 months, and you're on day passes here. After tomorrow, it's beaches and cafes. Plenty of free sunsets." "Are you serious?" Leia asked, voice sharp. "We flew across the world." I said. "You flew across the world on a wallet labeled emergency?" I laid my phone on the table. Lines and numbers, dates and notes. No drama, just math. Mom went straight to the script. "You're embarrassing us." I shook my head. "I've been embarrassed for 10 years. Tonight, I'm being clear. Dad tried the old wait. Don't do this to your mother." I answered, "Don't do this to your son." They stared. The sea kept moving. The check arrived and sat there like a test with only one right answer. I let the silence do its work. Then I smiled at the waiter and reached for my own portion. Mom's smile that first night in Santorini said it all. She thought she'd pulled off some kind of heartwarming family reunion. Dad froze. Mom's fork stopped midair. I just took a slow sip of wine. "That's correct," I said. "You're on your own now." The silence that followed was worth the price of the villa. Dad was the first to break. "We came all this way." I cut him off. "No, you crashed my vacation, the one I planned, paid for, and booked for myself after a decade of being told this trip isn't for you." Laya, my sister, rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, are you seriously still hung up on that? It was just 10 years. I snapped 10 years of watching you all post beach photos while telling me it's not the right time for me to come. But the second I booked something for myself, suddenly it's family time." Mom tried her classic guilt trip. "We're family. We share experiences. You're being petty." I leaned back in my chair. "No, I'm being done. There's a difference." Dad's voice went hard. "We didn't bring enough cash for everything. You know we were counting on—" I laughed, an actual laugh, and saw his face darken. "You've been counting on me since I got my first paycheck. Rent, bills, flights, hotels. I've paid for more family experiences than I've actually been part of." Leia muttered something under her breath about me being dramatic. I didn't let it slide. Dramatic is showing up uninvited and assuming I'll foot the bill. Dramatic is ambushing me in another country because you think I can't say no when you're right in front of me. Mom tried softening her tone. "Honey, we just thought—" I cut in sharply. "Stop! You didn't think. You assumed." The rest of dinner was tense enough to cut with a knife. Every time the waiter passed, Dad would ask about the booking issue, and I'd smile and say, "Resolved for me." Afterward, I walked back to the villa ahead of them, locked my suite, and poured myself another glass of wine. I could hear them arguing outside. Dad angry, Mom defensive, Laya insisting they should just put it all on my card since it's easier. That night, I sent them a message in the family group chat. "I'm leaving the villa tomorrow morning. You're welcome to keep it for the remaining nights at your expense. Good luck." The typing bubbles appeared instantly. Mom, you're overreacting. Leia, selfish much? Dad, we'll talk in the morning. I muted the chat. The next day, I checked into a smaller hotel on the other side of the island. Alone, I spent the day swimming, eating seafood, and not thinking about whether they'd figure out how to pay for their surprise trip. By the time they called again, their tone had shifted from entitled to panicked. Apparently, the villa wanted full payment up front for the remaining days. Their cards were having issues, and the driver they tried to book wanted triple the normal rate for last-minute transfers. I told them the same thing I'd been told for 10 years, sorry, this trip isn't for you. Then I hung up. They didn't last 3 days in the villa without my card. Day 1, they tried to bluff the concierge. Day 2, Dad called me with that fake friendly tone and said the system made a mistake. Day 3, Leia texted 12 times in a row, screenshots of declines, dramatic sigh emojis. Then, we're leaving early. Are you happy now? I answered once, safe travels. I stayed. I swam in the morning, answered a few work emails after lunch, and let my phone live on Do Not Disturb. When I finally flew home, I didn't tell anyone my arrival time. I unlocked my apartment, set down my bag, opened a window, and stood there. No crisis, nobody tugging the rope I'd worn around my neck. The next week was loud anyway. Mom posted a family-leaning caption about rough trips teaching Grace. Leia uploaded a reel about being let down by people you love. Dad called to say I'd humiliated him. I didn't engage online, and I didn't defend myself to their audience. I sent a single email to all three, the ledger, the totals, the repayment plan, and a simple line, I will not fund you. The plan was boring on purpose. Line items, dates, what was paid, by whom, and what was still owed. I added options, one-time payoff within 60 days at a discount, or a 12-month schedule with auto-draft from their accounts. No extensions, paused wallet until paid in full, no group trips with me until there was a zero balance, and an apology. Boundaries in black and white. Mom replied first, we do not owe you, we are family. I answered with the PDF again. Dad wrote, you're acting like a creditor. I wrote, because I've been one. Leia tried pity. I'm anxious. Money talk makes it worse. I wrote, then stop spending mine. Silence. Finally, a good kind. Work noticed. Not about the trip, about me. I went to the gym before meetings instead of staying up to Zell someone's Uber. I logged off at 6 p.m. and didn't carry a crisis into the next morning. My boss asked if I changed something. I said I stopped saying yes to the wrong things. He said, keep that up. On the third Friday, Mom called, crying that Dad's card had been declined at the pharmacy. The old me would have driven across town and paid cash at the counter. The current me asked, where's Dad? She handed him the phone. I read the plan aloud. There's a hardship form in the email. It reduces the monthly amount, but you still pay something. I will not be your emergency. He tried the heavy voice. I kept mine neutral. When he realized I wouldn't budge, he hung up. 2 hours later, I saw a notification. First auto draft completed from Dad's account. No apology attached. I didn't require one to process the payment. Leia came next. She needed help with her lease renewal fee. I told her to sell the designer luggage she'd tag me in and start a separate savings account labeled fees. She wrote 3 paragraphs about feeling unsupported. I answered with the sentence, you are an adult. 2 days later, she listed the luggage online and paid the fee herself. Then she sent a forwarded text, I did it alone. I replied, good. Mom tried a different tactic, the cousin triangulation. Suddenly, I got messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, each carrying a piece of her version. I ignored the noise and sent the same PDF to anyone who asked from my side. Facts don't need adjectives. Most people stopped messaging. One aunt sent a thumbs up. Another asked for the template because her grown son was draining her. I forwarded it. I won't lie, there were nights I felt mean. The old reflex flared, fix it, keep the peace, pay now and argue later. I went for walks instead of opening my banking app. I cooked, I slept, I met friends who'd been patient with my previous cancellations. One of them said, it's weird seeing you relaxed. I said, I didn't know it was allowed. Month 2, Leia paid her first installment. She included a single line, I hate this. I wrote back, me too, see you when it's 0. She didn't respond, but she didn't stop paying. Mom sent a box with a scarf from Greece and a note, family is messy but love wins. I put the scarf back in the box and set it in my closet. Love without respect is debt. Dad stalled in month 3. I paused the plan after the grace period and sent the notice I'd warned about, late fee applied, card access remains locked. He called, angry, then quieter. Things are tight. I told him where the community clinic offered cheaper medications, reminded him I'd already mapped it for him, and told him he could resume payments next month at the lower hardship rate if he filed the form. He did. He hates forms. He still did it. Meanwhile, I built a new routine, Sundays for hikes, Thursday dinners with people who know how to split a check without drama. I also made a petty little list called firsts. First trip I chose, first weekend where nobody borrowed my car, first month my emergency fund grew instead of bleeding. Petty felt good. Petty was progress. Midway through month 4, I got an unexpected text from Laya's ex, a guy I've barely spoken to. Saw the grease posts, he wrote. Then heard your side. Thank you for not feeding it anymore. 2 days later, Laya sent a second line with her payment. I'm embarrassed. I replied, I was too. It passes. Dad finally called without anger in month 5. He didn't apologize. He told me he'd switched to the clinic, that it wasn't as bad as he'd expected, and that he'd be on time next month. He asked how Santorini really was without the fight on top of it. I told him the water was as blue as the photos. He laughed once, like he forgot he knew how. I didn't unpause the wallet. I didn't suggest a new trip. I didn't promise anything about Christmas. I put a reminder on my calendar for the month the balance would hit 0 if the payments kept coming. Not a countdown to forgive them, a countdown to stop talking about money with people who treat it like weather. In month 6, Mom asked if we could meet for coffee to start fresh. I said yes, with conditions, no ambushes, no discuss and dash, no we're already here, so can you. She agreed. We sat across from each other and actually talked. She cried less this time and listened more. I told her I wasn't punishing anyone, I was protecting myself. She nodded a lot. When the bill came, we both reached. We each paid for our own. It felt ordinary and enormous at the same time. The villa sent an end-of-season email with photos of sunsets I'd actually seen. I saved one to my desktop, not as a trophy, as a line in the sand where the water meets it and keeps moving. Boundaries can be quiet like that. No speech, no spectacle, just a tide that no longer lets certain things in. I didn't become a different person. I became the same one, minus the overdraft of other people's choices. The ledger wasn't the point, it was the tool. The point was this: I keep what I earn, I give what I choose, and I stop where I say stop. The weeks following my departure from Santorini unfolded in an unexpected tranquility. For the first time in years, my phone remained mercifully quiet. No barrage of passive-aggressive messages, no manufactured emergencies designed to pull me back into their orbit, no group chat manipulations where guilt was weaponized with surgical precision. This silence felt almost foreign. My family had never been practitioners of the cold shoulder. Their preferred method was relentless bombardment. An exhausting war of attrition where 40 consecutive messages would eventually wear down my defenses until capitulation became easier than resistance. Yet this time, the silence stretched on, and within that unexpected quiet, I discovered something I hadn't experienced in a decade. The luxury of breathing freely. My mornings transformed into something sacred, just me, my coffee, and the deliberate absence of my phone. I would sit by the window, watching the city wake up, without the familiar anxiety of wondering what crisis awaited in my notifications. The walk to work became meditative rather than strategic, no longer interrupted by the compulsive checking of messages that might demand immediate financial intervention. For the first time in years, I could make evening plans without the nagging fear that I'd have to cancel at the last minute because someone in my family had conjured another emergency that required my immediate attention and, inevitably, my wallet. This newfound freedom felt simultaneously liberating and slightly disorienting, like learning to walk again after years of carrying invisible weights. The silence finally broke approximately a month later when Mom's name appeared in my inbox. I braced myself for the familiar novel-length guilt manifesto, complete with emotional manipulation and carefully crafted reminders of family loyalty. Instead, I found something surprisingly concise. We're disappointed in how you acted, but we understand you've made your choice. The brevity itself felt like a statement. No pleading, no bargaining, just a cold acknowledgement wrapped in disappointment. I stared at those words for several minutes, then closed my laptop without responding. There was nothing left to debate, no argument worth having, no explanation that would bridge the chasm between their entitlement and my boundaries. Dad's attempt came next, delivered through a single text that managed to encapsulate everything wrong with their perspective. Family sticks together and we were just trying to be part of your trip. I set the phone face down on my kitchen counter and walked away. In his carefully constructed version of events, I remained the villain of this story, the selfish son who had ruined a beautiful family reunion rather than the exhausted bank account who had finally learned to say no. I'd heard this particular narrative so many times over the years that I could predict its every twist and justification. What I didn't expect was my sister calling 2 weeks after that. She didn't start with accusations, she just said, I didn't realize how much they've been leaning on you all these years. I guess I'm next in line now. There was a tired laugh in her voice, and I knew exactly what she meant. We talked for an hour. For once, it wasn't about money or favors, just about life. She admitted she used to think I exaggerated about Mom and Dad's demands. "Now I get it," she said quietly. That was the first time in years I felt a little less alone in my own family. We're not close yet, but it's something. As for me, I started planning another trip. Smaller this time, just a week in the mountains. No group invites, no shared wallets, no one asking me to cover the rest. I set boundaries, and for the first time, I didn't break them the second someone pushed back. The thing about drawing a line is people either learn to respect it, or they learn to live without crossing it. Either way, I finally get to keep my peace, and I'm not giving it up.